I stepped into the room, and it went dead silent. Not the polite kind of quiet, no, this was a cold vacuum, like someone had sucked the air right out of their lungs. My mother froze mid-laugh, her champagne flute trembling in her hand. My brother's eyes locked on mine, wide and unblinking, like he'd seen a ghost. And in a way, he had. The Carter family reunion wasn't supposed to include me. I wasn't even supposed to be alive. I took one step forward. The heels I hadn't worn in months clicked sharp against the hardwood floor. Aunt June's eyes widened, not in fear, but recognition. She knew. She'd always known. I didn't say a word, not yet. I just let them look at me. Unspoken questions filled the air like smoke. Where has she been? How is she alive? Why is she here? Then I saw him. My father. Stoic, silent, his jaw clenched so tight I thought it might crack. He didn't even blink. My mother finally broke the silence, her voice thin and cracking. "Evelyn," she said, like it was a prayer, like my name alone could erase what they'd done. I tilted my head, let the moment stretch, then smiled and said it loud enough for everyone to hear. "You told them I ran away." A collective inhale rippled through the room. Somewhere, a glass shattered. A baby started crying. I looked around at the faces that had pretended I never existed, and the truth rose in my throat like fire. You want to know what really happened? Let me tell you. My name is Evelyn Carter, and I remember everything. It started long before that silence, before the shattered glass and fake tears. Back in our kitchen, the one that always smelled like lemon cleaner and stress. Every Sunday morning, my mother would wipe the counters 3 times over, muttering about presentation, like someone was coming to judge us. No one ever did. She had a voice that could cut through bone, sharp, bitter, always trembling on the edge of something cruel. "You're so ungrateful, Evelyn. Do you ever think about how hard I work?" It didn't matter if I was setting the table or breathing too loud. I was always too much and never enough. My father hid behind his newspaper. Always the damn newspaper. I don't even know what he read. Maybe he just used it to disappear. And then there was Ryan, my older brother, the golden one. Quarterback, honor student, never grounded, not once. When I stayed out 10 minutes past curfew, I was a problem. When Ryan crashed Dad's car into a mailbox, Mom made cupcakes and called it a growing experience. I wasn't angry back then. Not really. Just tired. By the time I was 19, I'd started community college and worked late nights at a diner off Route 12. My shifts ended at 2 a.m. I'd come home dead on my feet and still get scolded if I forgot to wipe my shoes. That night, the night it all changed, it started with burnt toast and ended with a slap. "You're not going to throw your life away like some waitress," she said, loud and cruel. My hand shook as I grabbed my jacket. The porch light flickered behind me as I walked into the dark. Just a few blocks to clear my head, I told myself. Just breathe. The air was cold, my breath coming out in clouds. The streets were quiet, empty, the hum of streetlights the only sound. My thoughts were loud, though, pounding against my skull. I didn't know that would be the last time I'd see my house for almost a year. I didn't know someone I loved would be behind the wheel. And I definitely didn't know they'd all pretend I was never coming back. I don't remember the sound of the car. I remember the cold seeping into my jeans, into my shoes. I remember the silence of the street, how empty it felt, like I'd walked off the edge of the world. Streetlights buzzed overhead, flickering like they couldn't decide whether to keep shining. My hands were stuffed in my jacket pockets, fists clenched. My mother's words still rang in my ears. "You're pathetic, Evelyn, just like your father's side." I didn't even know what that meant. I just knew it hurt. I turned the corner near the old gas station, the one shut down since I was 10. That's when I saw the headlights fast, too fast. I didn't have time to move. I felt it, a hot, white impact, like getting hit with lightning. My body lifted off the ground, then nothing. Just black. When I woke up, everything was wrong. The ceiling was too white, the sheets too stiff. My mouth was dry, like sandpaper. Wires snaked out of my arms, and machines beeped beside me. A nurse hovered just out of focus. "Hey," she whispered, "you're okay." You're at County General. You've been out a while. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. My throat felt raw, like I'd swallowed fire. Don't panic, she said gently. You were in an accident. Hit and run. No ID. You've been here almost 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That couldn't be right. Someone would have come by now. Someone had to be looking for me, right? But no one came. No calls, no flowers, no familiar voices. They'd posted a small newspaper ad, unidentified young woman found unconscious on Route 12, but no one answered it. And me? I didn't even know my own name. The doctors called it retrograde amnesia, temporary memory loss from head trauma. I remembered colors, music, random things, but not my birthday, not my parents' names, not who I was. Sometimes I'd catch glimpses, a woman yelling, a car door slamming, the smell of cinnamon toast, but none of it made sense. I was a blank slate, a question no one wanted the answer to. They moved me to a long-term care facility downtown. I spent my days relearning how to eat, how to walk, how to speak in full sentences. The nurses were kind, but they looked at me like a sad story, a Jane Doe who didn't matter. Until one night, a song came on the TV. Fleetwood Mac, Landslide. The kind of song that makes your chest tighten before you even know why. Can I handle the seasons of my life? I don't know what it was, the melody, the voice, or the way the nurse hummed along, but something inside me cracked open. A flash, not of music, but of cinnamon toast. A woman's hand slapping a plate down. My mother, her rings clinking against ceramic. Then more loud voices, screaming, slamming doors, cold air hitting my skin. The sidewalk. The streetlight. The headlights. And a face. My body jolted so hard the heart monitor beeped out of rhythm. The nurse rushed in, asked if I was in pain. I told her no. I told her I remembered something. They brought in a therapist the next day. She asked gentle questions, told me to let the memories come in waves. But mine didn't come like waves, they came like a flood. Each night, I'd remember more. The diner, the way my hands smelled like grease. The cracked porch light. My mother's slap. My brother's fake smile apology afterward. And then it hit me, the car, the driver. It wasn't a stranger. It was Ryan. My own brother. His face lit up in those headlights, eyes wide, mouth open, shouting something. I saw the logo on his hoodie, the red varsity R from his high school football team. I remembered the party at my cousin's earlier that night. How he'd been drinking. How Mom let him take Dad's car, even though he'd stumbled down the steps. It was him. He hit me, and he didn't stop. He just kept driving. I spent hours trying to convince myself I was wrong. That maybe my brain was blending memories, mixing timelines. But it felt real, too real. And then I remembered the voice. My father's. Don't say a word about that night, Ryan. She shouldn't have been out there to begin with. I remembered hearing it lying on the couch, still bruised, still dazed, hearing him say that to my brother. They knew. They both knew. And still, they told the world I ran away. That I was unstable, emotional, embarrassing. They buried me in silence, pretended I'd chosen to disappear, while I'd been lying in a hospital bed, broken, forgotten, remembering everything. That night, I sat up in bed, staring out the window. I wasn't just going to survive this. I was going to come back, not quietly, not gently, and not with forgiveness. The hospital made one last attempt to contact my family. It had been nearly a month. I could walk again, eat on my own, say my full name without forgetting it halfway through. Evelyn Carter, 19 years old, daughter, sister, not a ghost. The social worker called the number on my emergency contact form. My mother answered. I didn't hear the conversation, but I saw the nurse's face as she listened, eyes narrowing, mouth going tight. When she hung up, she looked at me like I'd just been orphaned. They said you ran away, she told me gently. That you'd always been unstable. That they didn't want contact. I stared at her. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. Instead, I asked her to repeat it. They didn't want contact, she said again. Just like that, I became an unperson. They hadn't filed a missing persons report. They hadn't called hospitals. They hadn't even checked the paper. Later, My Aunt June told me the full story. According to my mother, I'd left in the middle of the night after a mental episode. She told the extended family I was volatile, that I refused help, that I'd stormed off barefoot, refusing to speak to anyone. She said it like it was some tragic shame, like they were the victims. And people believed her. They threw a candlelight vigil in the church basement. Ryan gave a speech, tears, and everything. "Evelyn, wherever you are, we hope you find peace," he said. Peace. While I was in a hospital bed, hooked up to a monitor, relearning how to hold a spoon. They packed at my room, gave away my clothes, donated my books to charity. Wiped me clean like I'd never been part of them. I saw a photo later, a family picture taken just weeks after the accident. Ryan smiling, arms around my mother and father. They were at the lake house, the one I'd loved as a kid, the one I wasn't allowed to mention without being called selfish. I stared at their faces and realized something horrifying. They were fine. They were better without me. And I was alive and, apparently, an inconvenience. That night, I sat on the edge of my hospital bed, holding the call button in one hand and my discharge papers in the other. If they were going to pretend I'd disappeared, I might as well show them what it looks like when someone comes back from the dead. Aunt June was the one who told me the truth. She came to see me one rainy Thursday, long after the nurses had given up on any visitors walking through my door. She looked thinner, tired, but her hug was real. "I didn't believe them," she whispered. "I didn't believe a word." We sat on the vinyl couch by the window while the rain tapped the glass. She held my hand like I mattered, like I existed, and then she started talking. "They told everyone you'd run off in shame," she said. "That you were unstable, emotional, that you couldn't handle being part of the family anymore." I stared at her. "Did anyone ask why?" June shook her head. "They didn't want to know why." She'd tried, apparently, asked where they thought I'd gone, asked why they never filed a police report. My mother snapped at her, said she was making it worse. But the worst part wasn't the story they told the world. It was the story they told each other. My father knew Ryan had taken the car that night. He knew Ryan had been drinking. He knew what happened. He knew. And he still let them blame me. He said it was an accident, June told me softly. Said you shouldn't have been out so late wearing dark clothes. I laughed. The sound came out sharp and empty. They buried me under their own guilt and called it grief. They held fundraisers in my honor. My mother cried in church pews for show. Ryan posted a photo of us together from when I was 10, captioned, "Miss you, sis." I wanted to throw something, scream, but instead I sat still. Something inside me was starting to change. This wasn't just neglect. This wasn't just dysfunction. This was a family that chose to erase me because the alternative meant facing what they'd done. And if they could lie that easily, that convincingly, what else were they hiding? I looked at June. "Can I stay with you? Just until I figure things out." She nodded, no hesitation. That was the first yes I'd heard in months that didn't come with conditions. I packed what little I had, left the hospital with a limp and a folder full of trauma, but I was done being a ghost. The next time they saw me, I'd make sure everyone was watching. It was Ryan's engagement party. Of course it was. White linen tablecloths, champagne towers, fairy lights strung over the back patio like a Hallmark movie. Everyone was there, cousins, church friends, old coaches, neighbors who thought they knew us. They didn't. I stood just outside the gate, heart pounding like it was trying to break out of my chest. My palms were sweating, my breath short, but I wasn't scared. Not anymore. I walked in. Heads turned one by one, like dominoes falling. Someone dropped a fork. Someone whispered my name. My mother saw me, and her face went white, like the blood had just stopped. She took a step back, gripped the edge of the table. Ryan turned. He was laughing, mid-toast, until his eyes locked on mine. He choked on his words. His fiancée touched his arm. "Who is that?" she whispered. He didn't answer. I walked straight through the center of the patio, letting the silence bloom around me. Aunt June was there. She nodded, just once. "Evelyn," my mother finally said, voice trembling. "You look well." I smiled, sharp, measured. "You told them I ran away." Someone gasped. A guest shifted uncomfortably. My father cleared his throat. Now's not the time for. No, I cut in. Now is exactly the time. I turned to the crowd. They told everyone I ran away. That I was unstable, dangerous, embarrassing. I let it sink in. But that's not what happened. My voice didn't shake. My hands didn't tremble. I was in a hit and run. I spent weeks in the hospital with no ID, no visitors, no name. They knew. They knew where I was. Ryan opened his mouth. You don't know what you're talking about. Really? I said. Because I remember your face behind the wheel. Dead silence. Someone whispered, "What did she just say?" I kept going. I remember the hoodie, the party, the smell of beer on your breath. And I remember what Dad said, she shouldn't have been out there anyway. My father stepped forward. Evelyn, please, this isn't the place. No, June said. Let her finish. I pulled out my phone. Would you all like to hear what a cover-up sounds like? I hit play. The voicemail played loud across the patio, my father's drunken voice, slurred and low. She's gone. You need to keep your mouth shut. You were drinking, and I can't protect you if this gets out. The room froze. Ryan backed away. My mother covered her mouth. I looked straight at my father. You didn't lose me. You erased me. Then to the crowd, this is the family that cried for a daughter they chose to forget. I walked out the same way I came in, alone, but not silent. This time, they heard every word. I didn't look back as I left the patio. The silence behind me was thick, heavy, like the air before a storm breaks. I could feel their eyes on me, shock, guilt, confusion, but I didn't care. I'd said what I needed to say. The truth was out, and it wasn't mine to carry anymore. I got into Aunt June's car, where she'd been waiting by the curb. She didn't ask questions, just started the engine and drove. You did good, she said after a while. I nodded, staring out the window. It didn't feel good yet. It felt raw. By the next morning, the voicemail was everywhere. Someone at the party must have recorded it, forwarded it, shared it, screen recorded it. A church friend sent it to her book club. A former teacher sent it to the school board. It spread like wildfire. I didn't have to do a thing. People did it for me. Ryan's coaching job was the first casualty. Gone by noon. Parents don't like it when the assistant coach turns out to be a drunk driver who hit his own sister and left her for dead. The school tried to bury it quietly at first, but the voicemail was too loud, too damning. Local news picked it up by evening. Headline: Family covered up hit and run involving missing teen. My father was called in for questioning the next day. Obstruction, negligence, tampering, they threw around words like that. He lawyered up, of course he did, but you can't cross your T's after the house is already on fire. My mother spiraled. She tried to host another vigil, this time for healing. No one came. The neighbors stopped waving. People from church stopped returning her calls. She was alone with her lies now, and they weren't holding her up anymore. Ryan called me once, a couple days later. Left a voicemail of his own. You got what you wanted, okay? You ruined us. I listened to it twice, his voice shaking with anger, maybe fear. I didn't call back. He was wrong, I didn't want ruin. They did that all on their own. All I did was tell the truth. I deleted the message and blocked his number. I was done with him. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name in stiff handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a check, a big one, and a single sentence on a torn slip of notebook paper. I should have protected you. Dad. I stared at it for a long time. The amount was enough to start over, maybe more, but the note? That was the part that got me. Not because it meant anything, words are cheap, but because it was proof. Proof that even cowards know when they've lost. I didn't cash the check. I framed the note instead, hung it on the wall in June's guest room. Not for forgiveness, not for sentiment. Just to remind myself they couldn't buy me back. June didn't push me to talk about it. She'd make coffee in the mornings, leave me a mug on the counter, and go about her day. She was the only one who'd ever really seen me, even before all this. You don't have to decide anything yet, she said one night over dinner. Just breathe for a while. I nodded. Breathing was all I could manage some days. The truth had broken them, Sure, but it had hollowed me out too. I wasn't the same Evelyn who'd walked out into the dark that night. I didn't know who I was yet, but I knew I wasn't theirs anymore. The news kept coming, even when I tried to tune it out. Friends of friends would text June updates. Small-town gossip travels fast. Ryan's fiancée left him. She didn't say much, just packed her bags and moved back to her parents' place. Couldn't blame her. Who'd want to marry into that mess? The school board launched an investigation into how Ryan got hired in the first place. Turns out my father had pulled some strings, called in favors. That backfired too. His name started showing up in articles, not just as the father, but as the guy who covered it up. People he'd worked with for years stopped taking his calls. My mother tried to save face. She posted online some long, rambling thing about forgiveness and family and misunderstandings. No one bought it. Comments tore her apart. You let your daughter rot in a hospital bed. How do you sleep at night? She deleted it within hours, but screenshots lived forever. I didn't read it. Didn't need to. I'd heard her voice enough in my head to know what it'd say. I stayed with June, kept my head down. Started thinking about what came next. The hospital bills were still there, piling up, but I had a little savings from the diner job, enough to keep me afloat for a bit. June offered to help, but I didn't want her money. I'd figure it out. I always had. One night, I sat on her porch with a cup of tea, listening to the crickets. The air was cool, the kind that settles your nerves. I realized something. The silence didn't scare me anymore. It wasn't the same silence they'd forced on me. This was mine. A couple weeks after the party, June came home with a stack of mail. This one's for you, she said, handing me an envelope. It was from the hospital, final discharge summary, insurance stuff. Tucked inside was a note from one of the nurses, the one who'd been there when I woke up. Evelyn, I saw the news. I'm so sorry. You're stronger than they'll ever know. Take care. I folded it up, stuck it in my pocket. It was the first time someone outside June had said something kind without pity. That same day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It was a reporter from the local paper. Evelyn Carter? I'm working on a follow-up story. People want to hear your side. I froze. My side. I hadn't thought about it like that, like it was something worth telling beyond that night. I don't know, I said. I'm not ready to talk. Fair enough, she replied. But if you change your mind, you've got a voice now. They can't take that away. She left her number and hung up. I sat there, phone in my hand, thinking about what she'd said. A voice. I'd spent so long being silent, first because I had to, then because I couldn't. Now it was mine to use, or not. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet. Later that night, June found me staring at the framed note from my father. You keeping that up for a reason? She asked. I shrugged. Proof, I said. That it happened. That I didn't make it up. She nodded, didn't push. You don't need proof for me, she said. But I get it. She squeezed my shoulder and left me alone with my thoughts. The truth didn't just break them, it was starting to rebuild me. Not fast, not easy, but piece by piece. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need a court case. I just needed the silence to end. And when it did, when the lies were stripped down to bone and dust, they had nothing left. But I did. I had me. I didn't plan to leave right away, but staying still started to feel like sinking. June's place was safe, coffee in the mornings, quiet nights on the porch, but it wasn't mine. I needed something that was. So I started looking. 3 states away, I found it, a small apartment above a bookstore that smelled like old paper and second chances. The rent was cheap, the lease was month to month, and the owner didn't ask too many questions. I signed my name, Evelyn Carter, on the dotted line and felt the weight shift. Not gone, just different. Moving wasn't hard. I didn't have much. A suitcase of clothes June helped me pick up from thrift stores, a box of books she insisted I take, and that framed note from my father. I didn't tell anyone where I was going, not the hospital, not the reporter, not even the few old classmates who'd started emailing me after the news broke. Is it true? Are you okay? I never answered. This part of my life, the after, didn't belong to them. It belonged to me. The bookstore job came with the apartment. The owner, a guy named Tom with gray hair and a limp, didn't care about my past. "Can you lift boxes and work the register?" he asked. I said yes. That was it. The work was simple: stacking shelves, ringing up customers, dusting corners that hadn't been touched in years. It was quiet, steady, the kind of routine that let my mind settle. Every now and then, I'd catch a whiff of leather bindings or yellowed pages and feel something close to peace. I enrolled in an online program to finish my degree. Community college credits transferred over, and I picked up where I'd left off, psychology, because I wanted to understand. Not just them, but me. How you survive something like that. How you rebuild. I'd study at night, laptop balanced on a rickety table, a mug of tea going cold beside me. The apartment was small, one room, a kitchenette, a bathroom with a leaky faucet, but it was mine. No yelling, no pretending, no walking on eggshells. Just quiet. My quiet. I started journaling again too. At first, it was just fragments, memories that wouldn't leave me alone. The sound of Ryan's car, the smell of hospital antiseptic, my mother's voice cutting through the dark. But then it turned into something else. Questions. Why didn't I see it sooner? How did they live with it? What do I do with this now? I didn't have answers, not yet, but putting it on paper made it less heavy. Like I was handing it off to someone else, even if that someone was just me. Therapy came next. I found a woman online, Dr. Ellis, who didn't flinch when I said I wasn't missing, I was erased. She listened, asked sharp questions that made me think. "What do you want from this, Evelyn?" she asked in our first session. I didn't know. "To not feel like this forever," I said. She nodded. "That's a start." We met once a week, video calls from my couch. She didn't push me to forgive or forget, just to keep going. And I did. June sent postcards. Little things, pictures of farmers' markets, thrift finds, a lemon bar recipe she swore I'd love. She never said much, just thinking of you or found this and laughed. She didn't have to say more. I'd stick them on the fridge with a magnet shaped like a cat, a growing line of color against otherwise bare walls. Once, she called. "You good out there?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Getting there." She didn't ask about them, and I didn't bring it up. We both knew they were a closed chapter. The news faded over time. I stopped checking. Last I heard, Ryan was working some dead-end job at a warehouse, fiancé long gone. My father's business took a hit, clients bailed, contracts dried up. My mother sold the house, moved somewhere smaller, alone. I didn't feel satisfaction, exactly. More like relief. They weren't my problem anymore. I'd stopped carrying their weight. But I kept one thing. On my bookshelf, between two old novels, there was a photo frame. Inside, a picture of my family, me at 12, Ryan beside me, Mom with her fake smile, Dad standing stiff like always. I'd burned the edges just enough to curl the paper, a reminder it was real. Not to keep the pain, but to remember the truth. Because the truth didn't just set me free, it rebuilt me. One day, Tom caught me staring at the frame while I was supposed to be shelving books. "That yours?" he asked, nodding at it. "Yeah," I said. "Old life." He didn't pry, just handed me a stack of paperbacks and said, "This one's good if you need a distraction." It was a detective novel, worn spine, dog-eared pages. I took it home, read it in one night. He was right, it helped. The emails kept coming, though. Old classmates, a cousin I hadn't seen in years, even the reporter from back home. "We're doing a follow-up." People still talk about it. I didn't reply. Tom saw me delete one once, asked why. "They don't get it," I said. "I'm not their story anymore." He grunted, like he understood, and went back to counting inventory. I liked that about him, no fuss, no judgment. Then there was the night I woke up from a dream, headlights, Ryan's face, my mother screaming my name. I sat up, heart racing, sweat soaking my shirt. It wasn't new, but it hit harder than usual. I got out of bed, grabbed my journal, wrote it down. He didn't stop. She didn't look. I survived anyway. I stared at the words until they stopped shaking on the page. Dr. Ellis had a name for it: trauma echoes. They'll fade, she said in our next session. Not gone, just quieter. I believed her. Months in, I started to feel it: freedom. Not the loud kind, not revenge or triumph, but the slow, steady kind. I'd walk to the corner store for milk and not flinch at car horns. I'd laugh at something Tom said and mean it. I'd sit on my tiny balcony, barely big enough for a chair, and watch the streetlights flicker without thinking of that night. It wasn't perfect. Some days, the past clawed its way back: anger, hurt, questions with no answers. But I had something now, a life that was mine. One evening, I tried June's lemon bar recipe. The kitchen smelled sharp and sweet, and I burned the edges a little, but they tasted good. I ate one standing at the counter, crumbs falling on the floor, and thought about calling her. Instead, I sent a postcard back, a picture of the bookstore with "Made your recipe. You're right, they're great." It felt like enough. I wasn't done healing. Maybe I never would be, not completely. But I was here, alive, breathing, building. They'd tried to erase me, and I'd come back louder than they could have imagined. Not for them, not anymore. For me. The days started blending together, but not in a bad way. Work at the bookstore, classes online, therapy sessions, journaling. It was a rhythm I could live with. I wasn't running anymore, not from them or myself. The apartment felt less empty over time. I added a plant to the windowsill, some scrappy little thing Tom gave me from the shop. "It's tough," he said. "Like you." I named it June, because it made me smile. Watering it became part of the routine, a small thing that mattered. I'd been there 6 months when the first real test came. An email from Ryan. The subject line was blank, and I almost deleted it without looking. But I opened it anyway. "I'm sorry," it started. I was drunk, scared. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I know you hate me, and I don't blame you. Just needed you to know." That was it, no excuses, no begging, just those words. I sat there, staring at the screen, waiting for the anger to hit. It did, but it wasn't the fire it used to be. More like embers, hot but fading. I didn't write back. Didn't know what I'd say. Sorry, didn't undo the coma, the lies, the year I lost. But it stuck with me, that he'd send it. Dr. Ellis asked about it in our next session. "How'd it feel, reading that?" she said. "Weird," I told her. "Like he's a stranger now." She nodded. "Maybe he is." "You don't owe him anything, not a response, not forgiveness." I liked that. I didn't have to decide what he deserved. I just had to keep living. The bookstore got busier around the holidays. People came in for gifts, old novels, coffee table books with pretty covers. Tom put me in charge of the register more, said I was good with the customers. I didn't feel good at it, just calm, steady, but they seemed to like me. One lady, older, with a scarf tied tight around her neck, bought a stack of mysteries and said, "You've got a kind face." I didn't know what to do with that, so I just smiled and handed her the receipt. Kind. I hadn't thought of myself that way in a long time. Tom started trusting me with more, ordering stock, setting up displays. He'd grumble about his bad knee and let me handle the heavy stuff. One day, he caught me rearranging a shelf of classics and said, "You ever think about running this place?" I laughed, thought he was joking. He wasn't. "Not now," he said. "But down the line, you've got a head for it." I didn't know what to say. Me, running something? It felt too big, too far off. But it planted a seed. I kept up with school. Finished my first semester with decent grades, not perfect, but mine. Psychology was starting to make sense, not just their mess, but mine. How trauma rewires you, how survival isn't linear. I wrote a paper about memory, how it can break and rebuild. Got an A. The professor's note said, "Personal, powerful work." I didn't tell her it was my story. Didn't need to. June came to visit once. Showed up on a Saturday with a bag of lemons and a grin. "Thought I'd see how those bars turned out in person," she said. I hugged her so hard she laughed. We spent the day baking, talking, sitting on my tiny balcony with mugs of tea. She didn't ask about them either, just listened when I told her about the job, the plant, the quiet. "You're doing it, kid," she said before she left. Living. I teared up, didn't hide it. She hugged me again and drove off, promising to come back in the spring. The postcards kept coming after that. One had a picture of her at a flea market, holding up a chip teapot. "Reminded me of your mom's old set," she wrote. It didn't sting like it used to. I stuck it on the fridge with the others. The past was still there, but it wasn't choking me anymore. Dr. Ellis called it progress. "You're not stuck in their story," she said. "You're writing your own." I started to believe her. Then there was the night I found the photo again. I'd shoved it behind some books on the shelf, out of sight. But it fell out while I was cleaning me at 12, them smiling like nothing was wrong. The burned edges caught my eye, and I sat there, holding it. I didn't feel rage this time. Just distance. They were a memory, not a weight. I put it back, face down. Didn't need to burn it more. It wasn't about them anymore. A year in, I got a call from the reporter again. "Evelyn, it's been a while," she said. "People still ask about you. We're doing a piece on survivors, your story fits." I hesitated. Last time I'd said no. This time, I thought about it. "What's the angle?" I asked. "Strength," she said. "How you came back?" I told her I'd think about it. Hung up, sat with it. A voice like she'd said before. Maybe I was ready to use it, not for them, but for me. I talked to Dr. Ellis about it. "What's holding you back?" she asked. "I don't want to be their victim again," I said. "The girl they broke." She leaned forward, even through the screen. "You're not. You're the one who walked away. That's what they'd hear." I nodded. She was right. If I told it, it'd be mine, my words, my truth. Not their lies. So I called the reporter back. "Okay," I said. "But it's my story, not theirs. Focus on what I did after." She agreed, set up an interview for the next week. I didn't prep much, just thought about what I wanted to say. How I'd survived, not just the hit and run, but the erasure. How I'd built something new. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about freedom. The article came out a month later. Evelyn Carter, the survivor who rewrote her life. They used a photo I sent. Me outside the bookstore, arms crossed, no smile, just steady. It didn't mention them much, just the basics, the accident, the cover-up. The rest was me, the hospital, the recovery, the move, the quiet strength of starting over. Tom put a copy on the counter at work, didn't say a word. Customers bought it, some recognized me. "That's you?" one asked. "Yeah," I said. "That's me." The emails picked up again, classmates, strangers, even a nurse from the hospital. "You're an inspiration. Thank you for telling it." I didn't feel like an inspiration, just a person who kept going. But it was nice, knowing it reached someone. Ryan's email stayed unanswered in my inbox. I didn't delete it, didn't open it again. It could sit there. I didn't need to carry it. That night, I made lemon bars again. Didn't burn them this time. Sat on the balcony, ate one, watched the streetlights. The echoes were still there, headlights, voices, silence, but they were quieter now. Not gone, just part of the background. I wasn't their ghost anymore. I was Evelyn. And that was enough. The article changed things, but not in the loud, dramatic way I'd feared. It was quieter, steadier, a ripple, not a wave. People at the bookstore started recognizing me more. Some just nodded, others asked questions. "You're the one from the paper, right?" a guy said once, buying a beat-up copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. "Yeah," I said, ringing him up. "That's me." He didn't push, just smiled and left. I liked that, no pity, no fuss. Just a fact. Tom kept the article on the counter for a while, until it got coffee-stained and dog-eared. "Brings in business," he said, half joking. But he was proud, I could tell. He started talking more about me taking over the store someday. "Not tomorrow," he'd say, "but you're getting there." I didn't argue. The idea didn't scare me anymore. It felt possible. School kept going. I was halfway through my degree now, pulling better grades each semester. Psychology wasn't just about understanding them or me, it was about what came next. I started thinking about grad school, maybe counseling. Helping people who'd been through their own versions of erasure. Dr. Ellis thought it suited me. "You've got the backbone for it," she said in one session. "And the heart." I didn't feel heroic, but I didn't feel broken either. That was something. June came to visit again, this time for a weekend. She brought a quilt she'd found at a thrift shop, patchwork a little frayed, but warm. For your couch, she said, tossing it over the armrest. We spent the days wandering the town, coffee shops, a used record store, the park near my place. She didn't mention the article until the last night, when we were eating takeout on my balcony. Saw it, she said, simple. You did good, kid. I shrugged. Just told the truth. She looked at me, eyes soft but steady. That's more than they ever did. Before she left, she gave me a hug and a postcard, blank this time. Write me when you feel like it, she said. I nodded, watched her drive off. The quilt stayed on the couch, a piece of her I could keep close. I wrote her later that week, thanks for the quilt. Miss you already. Sent it with a picture of the bookstore's front window, where I'd set up a display of survival stories. She'd get the joke. The past didn't vanish, but it stopped knocking so loud. Dreams still came sometimes, headlights, Ryan's face, but they didn't wake me up sweating anymore. I'd journal them, let them sit, move on. Dr. Ellis called it integration. It's not about forgetting, she said. It's about living with it. I got that. The truth wasn't a weapon now, it was a foundation. A year after the article, I got a letter. Not from them, but from a lawyer. My father's business had tanked, creditors were circling, assets liquidating. The letter was formal, cold, a settlement offer tied to the accident. They'd found my name in old hospital records, linked it to the news. No apology, just numbers and a signature line. I stared at it, the check clipped to the page. More than the one he'd sent before, enough to pay off my loans, maybe more. I called June. What do I do with this? I asked. She was quiet for a second. What do you want from it? She said. I thought about it, really thought. Not his money, I said. Not like this. She agreed. Then don't take it. You've got enough. I tore it up, mailed the pieces back with no note. Let him figure it out. I didn't need his guilt to buy my future. I was building it myself. Ryan's email sat unanswered still. I opened it once, months later, just to see if it still hurt. It didn't, not like before. I deleted it this time. Not out of anger, just because I was done. The reporter called again, asking for a follow-up. 2 years out, she said. People want to know where you are now. I said yes, but kept it short. Told her about the bookstore, school, the quiet. No drama, I said. Just life. She laughed. That's the best kind of story. The piece ran, smaller this time, tucked in the lifestyle section. Evelyn Carter. 2 years of quiet triumph. No photo, just words. Customers mentioned it, but it didn't stir much. My life was mine now, not headlines. Tom framed it anyway, hung it behind the register. For posterity, he said. I rolled my eyes but didn't take it down. I graduated that spring. Online degree, no ceremony, just a certificate in the mail. I framed it next to the bookstore article, 2 pieces of proof I'd made it. June sent a postcard, proud of you, kid. I called her, told her about grad school plans. Counseling, she said. You'll be damn good at that. I hope so. I'd start applying soon, keep working with Tom until then. The plant, June, thrived on the windowsill, tougher than it looked. One night, I took the old family photo off the shelf. The burned edges were still there, the faces faded but clear. I didn't feel much looking at it, just a dull ache, like a bruise you forget until you press it. I didn't need it anymore, not for proof, not for memory. I put it in a drawer, face down, closed it. The past could stay there. I had enough in the present. The bookstore was home now. Tom taught me the books, accounts, not just inventory. You're ready, he said one day, handing me the keys. Not full-time, but close. I took them, felt the weight. Not heavy, just solid. I ran the place on weekends, kept it steady. Customers became regulars, faces I knew. They didn't care about my story, just my recommendations. That was fine by me. 2 years turned into 3. I got into grad school, part-time, kept the job. Therapy tapered off. Dr. Ellis said I'd outgrown her, in a good way. You've got this, she said in our last session. I believed her. The echoes were whispers now, barely there. I'd sit on the balcony some nights, lemon bar in hand, and feel it, freedom, fully mine. Not loud, not vengeful, just real. They say secrets rot from the inside out. Turns out reputations do too. They'd lost everything: jobs, house, each other. I didn't check anymore, didn't need to. I'd heard enough. Ryan drifting, my mother alone, my father a shadow of who he'd been. The truth had hollowed them out, left them with nothing. But me? It rebuilt me, piece by piece, until I was whole. I wasn't their ghost, their victim, their shame. I was Evelyn Carter, survivor, student, bookseller, maybe someday a counselor. I'd walked through their fire and come out the other side. Not for revenge, not for justice, though I got both. For me. And that was the triumph that mattered.